How many times do you think I've called you? If you can hear me, at least respond. Ignoring your parents is just cheeky. Get out.
Samuel was yelling at his stepson. Kevin, Fo is hard of hearing in one ear. What are you doing? Stop it. I couldn't help but intervene. I hugged Kevin, Fo was sobbing, and glared at Samuel. Even after asking what happened, Kevin just trembled and couldn't answer anything. I'll take Kevin in for now. Thinking something was wrong, I took Kevin home. My name is Mary. Originally, I worked as a craftsman at the American branch of a world-renowned German watchmaker. Due to deteriorating eyesight and back problems, and the difficulty of sitting for long periods, I retired from the front lines of craftsmanship upon reaching retirement age. However, thankfully, I was approached with, "We would definitely like you to continue working for our company even after retirement, and it would be a shame to lose your skills." Now, I am working as an instructor, training watchmakers. I think I've led a good life. I was blessed to find a job I could immerse myself in, and there, I also found good fortune in my relationships, including having a lovely daughter, Laura. When I was in the thick of motherhood, the image of a working mom wasn't common, but both my company and my husband, Theodore, supported me generously. Laura was an easy child to raise, hardly ever being fussy or throwing tantrums. Once Laura became independent and married her college sweetheart, a weight was lifted off my shoulders. Later, Laura gave birth to a son. His name is Kevin. He is my grandson, but this child turned out to be such an untroubled, wonderful boy and so adorable. Not just Laura and her husband, Max, but Theodore and I, Kevin's grandparents, showered him with all our love. My life seemed to be going smoothly, but of course, good things don't last forever. The first incident was when Kevin, still toddling, developed a severe middle ear infection, which resulted in him becoming hard of hearing in one ear. It was pitiful that young Kevin had to bear such a handicap, but what worried me more was my daughter, Laura, who took it quite hard. Laura was in such a state, and when I went to check on her, she would be crying day after day while watching Kevin play with his toy cars. But at that time, Max was still alive, and, despite his busy job, he supported Laura well. Eventually, Laura regained her composure and returned to her usual self. Afterward, she, Max, and Kevin led peaceful days. They seemed like a very happy couple and family to anyone looking on. However, everything changed when Max suddenly died of a stroke. Laura, having lost her beloved husband Max, seemed deeply shocked. At first, she tried to keep it together, but after some time passed, she began to act strangely. She couldn't manage household chores or childcare, let alone handle daily life. When I went to visit, the house was a mess, and the kitchen was cluttered with dishes, some of which had been left there for who knows how long. Laura would either be wrapped up in a blanket, staring blankly, or crying as if suddenly remembering something. Naturally, she wasn't able to look after Kevin properly. When I visited, Kevin hadn't taken a shower in days and had only been eating bread. Laura seemed like she had become a big child herself. Worried about both Laura and Kevin, I visited their home frequently, so much that Theodore would tell me, "You're overprotecting them." Eventually, Laura overcame her mental slump, But then she started throwing herself into her work, as if to escape from reality. Having lost the family breadwinner, Laura seemed desperate to earn money and fill the role of both parents for Kevin. While I was glad she was pulling herself together, the balance with childcare was clearly off, so I still worried about the two of them. I would go to Laura's house while juggling work, and in place of Laura, who was working late, I would cook dinner for Kevin and take care of him. As time passed, Laura increasingly relied on me, and she became even more neglectful of her home. One day, I waited for Laura to come home, and finally gave her a stern talking to. "You're abandoning your role as a mother right now. I know you're trying hard to fill Max's shoes, but think about Kevin's feelings, losing his dad and feeling lonely." I said it harshly, even by my standards. Laura, overwhelmed, broke down crying.
"It's hard looking at Kevin because he reminds me so much of Max. I'm scared that his hearing loss is my fault as his mother."
Laura poured out her feelings. "I know you're suffering, but please, just pay a little more attention to Kevin." I comforted Laura with an arm around her shoulders. Months later, around the time Kevin was turning 9, Laura began to change. She met Samuel. Samuel was a young entrepreneur who had started an online shop and was in a serious relationship with Laura, a single mother. When Laura confided in me that she was considering remarrying Samuel, I was thrilled that she could take a new step forward. She might be able to take even better care of her family now. What pleased me most was that Samuel was fond of Kevin. Once, when we were invited to a family dinner, Kevin seemed to have taken quite a liking to Samuel. The way Samuel and Kevin played together, they looked just like a real father and son. Not long after, their wedding took place. Kevin walked shyly down the aisle, holding hands with Laura and Samuel. The three of them looked radiant like a holy family, and I prayed from the bottom of my heart that they would be happy, even for Max's sake. However, one day I realized that this happiness was an illusion. A few months after the wedding, I was heading to Laura's house with a joyful heart. I had a watch, a secret present I had been making for them. It's the same design of watches in different colors, tailored to fit Samuel, Laura, and Kevin's respective sizes. It was something I had made myself for the first time in a while to commemorate their becoming a family. I wonder if they'll like it. With anticipation and a bit of nervousness, I pressed the doorbell. But there was no response. Are they not hearing it? Suspicious, I used my spare key to enter. Then, a shocking scene unfolded before me. The house was as neglected as it had been soon after Max's death. But that wasn't all. In the middle of the strewn-about floor, Kevin was sobbing. Next to him stood Samuel, arms crossed, looking down on him, and Laura, pretending not to notice. They hadn't seen me yet. I instinctively held my breath and peered inside.
How many times do you think I've called you? If you can hear me, at least respond. Ignoring your parents is just cheeky. Get out.
Samuel was yelling at Kevin furiously. Unable to stand it any longer, I opened the door and ran to Kevin. I hugged Kevin, who was sobbing, and looked up at Samuel. "What are you doing? Stop it." Samuel glared back, eyes narrowed. Laura, in a shocking turn, blurted out,
"It's part of his education. Samuel is doing nothing wrong.
What do you mean?
It's Kevin's fault for ignoring Samuel.
That's ridiculous. No matter the reason, it's not right to yell at a child like that. Then, in my arms, Kevin said,
"It's not that, Grandma.
his voice trembled with tears.
It's my fault. I'm the bad kid."
Listen, Kevin, Grandma knows you're not a bad kid. If something happened, can you tell me about it? I'll listen carefully. Even as I spoke gently, perhaps frightened by Samuel, Kevin just shook his head vigorously. He started to say something but stopped when Samuel's piercing gaze cut him off. Frozen, Kevin clung tightly to my arm, trembling slightly. Something was definitely off. Not just yelling, but could there be physical abuse? "I'll take Kevin in for now." I lifted Kevin into my arms.
Hey, what do you think you're doing, old hack?
It's fine.
Laura restrained Samuel as he tried to grab me. The two exchanged meaningful glances. Feeling something suspicious and odd, I thought it more important to protect Kevin than to confront them, and I left Laura's house. In the car on the way home, Kevin just kept crying silently. "Did you have dinner?" He didn't respond to my question. Thinking it over, I realized Kevin is hard of hearing in his left ear, so he might not hear me well from the driver's seat to the passenger's seat. Maybe that's it. Realizing this, clouds of worry gathered in my chest. Praying it wasn't true, I continued to drive in silence. I first had Kevin take a warm shower once we got home. During that time, Theodore and I prepared dinner. After getting out of the bathroom, Kevin wore Theodore's jacket as pajamas, which was so baggy that his body was swimming in them. Then, over dinner, I took a long time to hear what had happened from Kevin. Initially hesitant, Kevin became more at ease as his stomach filled, and gradually began to share what had happened. Samuel, initially kind, had changed his behavior after they began living together. It all started because Kevin just couldn't bring himself to call Samuel Dad. Since then, a displeased Samuel began to be harsh with Kevin. Once, when Samuel spoke to Kevin, and he didn't respond, Samuel lost his temper.
You can hear me, can't you? Just respond. Do you hate me that much?
It turned out, like earlier when I spoke to him, Samuel had spoken from his deaf left side, and Kevin couldn't hear well.
You can hear fine with the other ear, right?
But Samuel wouldn't listen. From then on, Samuel repeatedly spoke to his deaf ear on purpose, scolding him when he didn't respond. Originally, Samuel had wanted to continue a romantic relationship just with Laura. Lately, it wasn't just Samuel. Even Laura was treating Kevin overtly like an unwanted burden. Especially recently, it had gotten worse, with the two often going out late for drinks, coming home in the middle of the night, and not even feeding Kevin. It's a terrible story. The more I heard, the more heartbroken I felt for Kevin, and I couldn't bear it. It was hard to accept that my own daughter was capable of such things, but I couldn't believe Kevin was lying, which left no room for defense. That night, after Kevin had fallen asleep in his bed, I called Laura. I wanted to confirm from her directly whether what Kevin had said was true. Laura readily admitted everything. The treatment Samuel was giving him, her pretending not to see it, and both of them leaving Kevin alone to go drinking. I can't send Kevin back to you if that's the case. I'll raise him at our house. You two will probably be happier living by yourselves.
Fine.
I said it somewhat sarcastically, but Laura just nodded and then fell silent. Doesn't she feel any maternal affection or responsibility? I wanted to scold Laura, but then I sensed Kevin waking up, so I ended the call. The next morning, I checked with Kevin. You can stay here at Grandma's, but what do you want to do? As your grandma, I'm worried about sending you back to that house, so I'd feel better if you stayed with me. Kevin nodded firmly in response. He answered so promptly that I couldn't help but ask, "Are you sure? You might not see your mom or Samuel again."
That's okay. Mom and Samuel probably hate me anyway.
To make a child say such things. My heart ached again. After that, Kevin went back once to pack his things and never returned to Laura's house. Theodore and I talked it over, and we decided to officially adopt Kevin. From then on, we began a calm and lively daily life together. Theodore, already retired, cooked for Kevin and me every day. His cooking skills, freshly honed at a cooking class, were hardly masterful, but the food was delicious enough and made with love. On days when Kevin had no school, we would cook together. On days off, we would go fishing or camping. Kevin's face, initially tense from the sudden change and shock, gradually softened day by day, and he started to smile more. One day, I received a transfer order. The head office in Germany wanted me to relocate there. It was a promotion and came with a raise in salary. Considering Kevin's future, it wasn't a bad option. Thus, the three of us moved to Germany. Kevin started attending after-school sign language and aita classes with children who have hearing impairment in Germany. All of us struggled with the new language, but Kevin quickly picked up German and soon spoke it better than any of us. I had thought Kevin was a quiet child, but I realized he had been suppressed in that house, and he was actually talkative and cheerful. It was a pleasure to see this unexpected side of him. After moving to Germany, Kevin became much more proactive. It's better to say he returned to his true self rather than changed. Kevin also became interested in clocks and frequently visited my workplace. At first, Kevin wouldn't stray far from my side, but gradually, he began to approach the other craftsmen, watching their movements intently. Perhaps because Kevin was so endearing, everyone took it upon themselves to look after him. 10 years passed, and Kevin grew from a small boy into a fine young man. He became involved in the development of next-generation hearing aids at his job, and his achievements were even featured in international journals. His reputation earned him a partnership with an American company for his hearing aids. As Kevin grew, I started to feel my own physical and mental decline, making work increasingly difficult. With Kevin's future looking bright and my retirement on the horizon, the three of us decided to return to our home country. Fortunately, Kevin's hearing aids were highly regarded. They were not only effective in providing clear hearing but also in blocking ambient noise and amplifying voices from whoever the wearer was looking at, which all contributed to their popularity. Kevin, one of the developers, was even invited to appear on TV. During the live interview, he proudly said,
This was made possible by combining my mother's watchmaking skills with IT. Without the craftsman who inspired the development and my parents who enveloped me with warm love, these hearing aids wouldn't have been possible. I am truly grateful.
Kevin was more fluent in German than English by then, so his remarks were translated. Watching Kevin speak on TV, my heart swelled with pride. Theodore was also moved to tears as he watched. However, the TV interview took an unexpected turn. Laura and Samuel suddenly appeared on the scene. Acting all parental all of a sudden, they warmly grabbed Kevin's hands and tearfully said,
Kevin, we finally found you. Come on, let's go home with Dad.
You've done so well, Kevin.
They seemed intoxicated by the drama of a long-lost family reunion. As I watched nervously to see what would happen, Kevin asked the interpreter,
Could you translate for me, please?
Without changing his expression, Kevin said,
Hello, the parents who abandoned me. It's been 10 years, hasn't it? How's the shopping site doing?
Their faces froze.
Kevin, about the hearing aids. Dad's site will have exclusive sales rights.
Laura tried to cover. Kevin continued calmly in German. It seemed like he was deliberately speaking German to keep a certain distance from them, as if he wanted to maintain a sense of formality with them.
Unfortunately, this product is tied up in a project to distribute it free to children with hearing difficulties, thanks to donations from kind people, so I can't give it to the mom and dad who abandoned me. Besides, my parents are Mary and Theodore, not you.
But look, isn't this watch matching, huh?
That's right, Kevin. You remember, don't you?
They showed Kevin an expensive watch I had given them. Kevin slowly shook his head.
That watch doesn't match mine.
Then, he pulled out a pendant from around his neck. The watch was one I had completely remade from the parts when Kevin first came to us, so he wouldn't have to remember them. Kevin realized this later and had always kept it with him. Not only that, but when his wrist outgrew it, he would wear it as pendants around his neck and cherish it.
Anyway, I've never thought of you two as my parents. Could you please not talk to me anymore?
Kevin stated firmly. Even the interpreter, who had started out translating hesitantly, began to speak louder in front of the TV camera as the story unfolded. Completely overwhelmed, Laura and Samuel awkwardly disappeared from the TV screen. Afterward, his shopping site was bombarded with criticism and complaints, leading to staff resignations and its eventual closure. Following that TV interview, Kevin became famous as a young man who turned adversity into success, with job offers flooding in from home and abroad. Now, he has started his own company, dedicating his days to helping children with hearing difficulties. As a globe-trotting man, Kevin's neck still sports the small watch I made for him. Back in the US, Theodore and I live a relaxed life, always looking forward to the souvenirs Kevin brings home from his visits.